Alright, we are back with a new video, and today we'll be updating the Big Brother Canada 10 Power Rankings for Week 7. Now, I know this video is coming a bit later than I have in the previous weeks, but now that Australian Survivor is wrapped up, I want to start putting these out on Wednesdays, as I feel like it's a more natural day to do so, as by then we know who the replacement nominees are. We have a better sense of how the vote's going to shake out moving forward. And I feel like this will just be better moving forward. So from here on in, the Big Brother Canada videos will be coming out on Wednesdays. But also, in addition to this, it's going to be a pretty crazy week where we have a triple eviction coming on Thursday. So a lot's going to happen here. I can't believe we're about to go from 8 people on Thursday to 5 people the following day. So it'll be pretty crazy to watch out for. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into the video. So starting off the list at number 9, we have last week's boot. We have Moose. And it's not too surprising to see Moose go out here, especially once the nominees were pretty solidified. Now, again, he wasn't the target coming to the week. He was supposed to just be a pawn. However, once Helena won the veto and decided not to use it, and once JC Lynn also had a veto and not use it, and the plan to backdoor Marty failed, he was left on the block and he was just the most threatening person there, and he didn't really have anywhere to maneuver as a result. So that's not great. And as I said before, Moose was a pretty big target for a lot of the season. There were definitely points where he was playing way too actively and made himself a target. Now, granted, he was able to get out of certain situations, such as winning comps or being able to convince people. And by the end, we saw people really see him being this great campaigner, maybe someone that could have won out, won some more competitions had he stuck in the game. So it was a no-brainer for him to actually go home this week. And again, that's pretty consistent with what I think of him as a player, where he's pretty good at campaigning to people and really good at talking to people. And he's pretty good at competitions as well, but by the end, he was just too big of a threat. Not too surprising to see him go out here, so he's here at number 9. And with that, we are now moving to the 8 players still in the game. And as I said, I'll be ranking them based on how likely I think it is that they'll win the game based on their current game position. And it's sort of crazy. Like I said, we're having a triple eviction, and we're literally going to be losing 3 of these people very shortly. So this is going to be very interesting to shake out, but also kind of difficult in terms of these rankings, as it's very hard to map out the different scenarios in which these people will survive. So I'm going to do my best here. But at number 8, we have the player who I think is the least likely to be in the triple eviction, the most likely person to be evicted first. And here we have Geno. And it's sort of crazy what happened to Geno this week, where Marty won HOH, of course. Marty was very much invested in keeping Geno in the game. He felt like he had backstabbed Geno before, wanted to stay true to him no matter what. And that was reflected in his initial nominees of Josh and Betty, but then Betty won the veto. So at that point, you would think that Josh would be the target. And to be fair, Josh is Marty's intended target at this point once Betty went out the block. It's just a matter of who the replacement was. And for a while, it seemed like it was going to be Kevin. However, at the last minute, and this is sort of crazy, however, this is Marty. Kevin is able to convince Marty that whoever goes out there as the replacement doesn't really matter as much, and therefore should come down to drawing gummy bears, I guess. So they literally draw gummy bears, and Marty even asks Geno if he even wanted to have a gummy bear to draw. Geno literally could have said no to this and not even be in consideration to be a replacement nom, but he decides to go along with it. And sure enough, he draws the gummy bear that makes him the replacement nominee. So Marty puts up Geno as the replacement nominee with the understanding that he'll be a pawn. However, what Marty doesn't seem to realize is the fact that Kevin and a lot of that side of the house are going to use this opportunity to target Geno, and because they don't want to get rid of Josh just yet. And so, believe it or not, Geno is probably going to go home on Thursday night. So it's sort of crazy how the situation really developed. But again, with Marty being the HOH and not really know what's going on, I can't say I'm too surprised, but kind of stinks that Geno is going to be going out like this. Though, honestly, even aside from that, he was probably going to be a target moving forward. He was going to probably be targeted during the triple regardless, given his comp ability. He was potentially a threat to win one of those HOHs during the triple. And the fact that he's probably going to be going home now is probably a way to circumvent that. So it's not too surprising that he's probably going to be going home here. And there is still a possibility the plan could change, but at this point, it doesn't seem super likely. So Geno is probably going to be going home on Thursday night. And because of that uncertainty of his future, I'm here at number 8. Now I'm moving on to number 7. And this person probably will survive the triple, if I'm being perfectly honest. And they have improved their win equity by a bit, though it's probably not enough to have them too high. And here we have Betty. And as I said, she won a veto this week. She finally won a competition. And I feel like that's definitely something she could put on her resume moving forward. So that's at least something. But even so, I mean, it's still hard to see her getting all the way to the end of the game, as it seems like Kevin and Helena are a likely final two. Even JC Lynn is a more likely person to be at the end at this point. So there's still uncertainty about Betty's future in the game. Mind you, I think there is a path for her to get towards the end. And if she keeps winning competitions, then she could potentially get more respect and potentially get jury votes. But for right now, it's still not looking great. I still don't think this is enough on its own to elevate her. So because of that, I still have her here at number 7. Now moving on to number 6. And we have someone who's kind of the opposite of Betty, where they are more likely to win a jury vote, but they are less likely to survive the triple. And here we have Summer. And Summer, I think, is probably in a pretty precarious spot where she was supposedly on the table to be a target this week, with her being outside the core power structure at this point. But the reason why she wasn't put up this week is because she won safety through Canada voting to give her safety this week. So you could argue that she was saved through a twist in that regard. But because of that, she's not eligible to be put up this week. If she didn't have that safety, she more than likely goes up regardless. And coming into this triple, I mean, she's in a very bad spot where, again, she's outside the core power structure and she hasn't won any competitions. I believe she's the only person still left in the game that has not won a competition of any sort. So that's pretty tough for her to be in as well. She's probably going to need to win a comp if she wants to stay safe after this triple, but it's a matter of if she can do it. And I'm not feeling great about it, if I'm being perfectly honest. But the reason I have her above Betty is because I feel like right now she has more win equity than Betty. I feel like if she gets to the end, she will probably win the game. So that's something at least. But it's just a matter of if she can get there. And to be honest, I'm not feeling great about it. So because of that, I have Summer here at number 6. Now we're moving on to number 5. And we have someone who's probably going to be a target coming into the triple. But given their comp ability, I mean, they definitely have a shot. And we actually have the current HOH. We have Marty. And again, Marty has eluded me multiple times this season. And he never fails to deliver, if I'm being perfectly honest, when it comes to him being HOH, at least in terms of entertainment. And strategically, he's kind of all over the place, of course. I mean, he came into the week with sort of the right idea of wanting to target Josh and Betty. I mean, he's not really motivated as much by the revenge thing anymore, but he could still, he's still trying to, stick with Geno, try to make Geno his friend for whatever reason. He talks about having quote unquote backstabbed him twice before, and he doesn't want to do it again, which is pretty questionable. I mean, you expect Geno to fully trust you after backstabbing him or being perceived of doing so. I mean, you might as well cut him at this point. So he definitely goes into a week in that regard. So again, he wants to target Josh and Betty. Obviously, Betty wins the veto, and he spends a lot of the day afterwards wanting to have Kevin as the replacement nominee. And had he done so, he probably would have been in a better spot, as he would have definitely weakened that core to some extent. He would have taken out one of the two power players in that, and he might have been in a slightly better position. I mean, granted, he still probably would have had to win out at some point, but he would at least have some allies like Helena there to prop him up to some extent. But then Kevin's able to convince him to not put up Kevin, or at least convince him that it doesn't matter who the replacement is, as they are part of this 5-person group, and whoever they put up, they agreed not to target them. And through that, Marty agrees to this ridiculous idea of basically a rock draw where they get a bunch of gummy bears, put them in a bag, and the 5 agree that whoever draws the bear will end up as the replacement nominee. And he even gets Geno involved with this, sort of to make Geno feel comfortable. assures Geno that he won't be the actual target, that he's just going to be the pawn. Geno agrees to this, draws the red gummy bear, and Marty puts him up. And it's sort of crazy how, for the longest time, he's really tried to make Geno feel like his friend, that he's trying to not backstab him, only to somehow end up putting him on the block again, technically backstabbing him a third time. And this time, I mean, he probably doesn't even recognize the fact that Geno's going to be the target. The numbers are definitely not in Marty's favor to keep Geno in the game. And by losing Geno, I mean, Marty's definitely going to be the biggest threat out there. He's probably going to be a prime target coming into the triple. I mean, there are definitely scenarios where he could stay, but he's definitely going to have to win a comp or two if he wants to survive that. If not, at least get someone like Helena or maybe JC to win a comp for him. But I mean, that's definitely doable given, like him and JC are two of the more competent competition people left in the game. But it's not a guarantee. He's definitely left in a precarious position. But to his credit, if he's able to get to the end, even after everything he's done, I think he might actually have a chance to win the game. So that's at least something. And he does definitely have the comp ability to try to win out from this point. So those are things in his corner at least. It's just a matter of if he can win out. And he's definitely going to be a target moving forward. It's that lack of certainty that makes me put him here at number 5. Now we're moving on to number 4, and we kind of have someone in a similar spot. I mean, probably less likely to be targeted outright than Marty, but also someone who still has a decent amount of win equity if they're able to survive the triple. But here we have JC Lin, and admittedly, this isn't a great way for JC Lin. Obviously, she's going to be losing Geno by the end of this. And that's not great coming into the triple. And she's probably going to be looked at as somewhat of a threat, given how she's definitely one of the more decorated comp players when it comes to the players still in the game. And she could definitely win some comps, don't get me wrong. However, I think she could be targeted, especially if Marty ends up getting safety through some means, like a veto or whatever. And that's not great. I mean, JC Lin is definitely in a worse spot now than she probably would have been had Geno come into the triple with her. However, again, to her credit, there is still a path for her moving forward. I think she could end up in a final 3 with her, Helena, and Kevin. That's still an option for her. And of course, she could just win out as well. Those are definitely things going for her. And I think she would probably beat both Helena and Kevin if she got to the end against them. So that's at least something I can give her credit for. However, it's just the uncertainty of her potentially being targeted coming into the triple that makes me want to put her here at number 4. Now moving on to number 3, and admittedly, I had the same top 3 as last week. I feel like these 3 are technically in the best position right now moving forward, even coming into this triple. Now, granted, I could see one person in particular being cut during the triple, but I feel like just coming into the triple, this group has a decent shot of holding the numbers. But at number 3, we have the person who I think is probably the most secure moving forward, but the least likely to win a jury vote. And here we have Helena. And like I said, I feel like Helena is someone who is pretty well positioned at this point, definitely poised well to get towards the end. However, the problem that I've had with her in the past is the fact that she doesn't have a ton of win equity. I feel like the jury would have a tough time really seeing her game and a tough time really rewarding her with a win. So I feel like she'll definitely need to step things up if she wants to get towards the end and win. However, given everyone left in the game, she probably has the least likely chance of winning a jury vote. I mean, the one person I could see her actually winning against is Betty, but even then, I mean, if Betty keeps winning competitions and she just ends up in that final 2, I could see Betty winning that. So those are definitely concerns for her. So she definitely needs to step it up, and I consider actually putting her lower as well. However, I feel like given the amount of safety that she has coming into the triple, I feel like that's definitely something I can feel comfortable with putting her this high on the list. However, it's that lack of win equity that makes me leave her here at number 3. Now moving on to number 2, and it's sort of crazy that I had this person here at number 2 as well, given that they are currently on the block, but here we have Josh. And if I had made this on Monday as long with my normal schedule, I would not have Josh in number 2 right now. I would assume that Josh would be the most likely person to go home, probably where Geno is. But it's sort of crazy what ended up happening here, where, again, he was on the block with Betty, most likely going to be the target coming into the week. Betty wins the veto, and Kevin, for the longest time, should have been going up as a replacement. And I feel like against Kevin, Josh would have been screwed. But instead, Geno ends up on the block, and with people being more likely to take Geno out, people seeing Geno as a bigger threat towards the end game, I feel like Josh is probably in the clear coming after this round. Now, granted, he'll probably be in some danger coming to the triple, and even moving forward, as people like Kevin and Helena don't actually intend on taking Josh all the way to the end. So he's definitely in quite a bit of danger coming into this triple as well. However, I feel like he's probably less of a priority to go out than Marty or JC. I feel like a lot of his fate will be determined on the comp results. I mean, if Marty and JC win, then win power like HOH or veto, then he could definitely be in some trouble there. However, he's not going to be the inherent target coming into that. So we're definitely going to have to pay attention to the comp results. And the other thing is that I feel like of this top three, he has the most win equity. I feel like if he gets to the end, he probably wins against most people, if I'm being perfectly honest. So that's definitely something I can give Josh some credit for, despite him currently being on the block. However, again, one of the advantages of having this video come out on Wednesday, now knowing what the replacement noms are, as well as what the plan is coming to the vote, I feel comfortable leaving Josh a bit higher. So because of that, I'm here at number 2. And now at number 1, the player I think is the most likely to win Big Brother Canada right now is Kevin. And admittedly, like I said, I don't think Kevin actually has the best jury chances in the world. I mean, I said that now in the past, I believe, but I think it's still pretty apparent here where he definitely needs to do something to make the jury see his game, to recognize how active he's been playing. However, I think Kevin definitely has the capability of doing that. And I think the reason I have him at number 1 is because he's definitely in the best position to get towards the end with people he could probably beat. I mean, I think if he gets in the end against Helena, he definitely has a shot of winning. Even if he gets to the end against Betty, I feel like he has a shot of winning as well. It's just a matter of if he can get the proper result to get that final 2 outcome and win the game. So there's definitely win equity for him there. However, probably not as much as Josh or even some of the people we talked about earlier. I also think he's relatively safe coming into the triple. There are probably going to be some weird circumstances to happen in order for him to not survive that. And even going back a couple days where he was supposed to be the replacement nominee for the longest time. I mean, he literally had like that whole Sunday after the veto happened where he probably was going to be put up as the replacement. I mean, and of course he even had that task with for having to pretend like he was going to quit the game and get garnering a lot of sympathy there. But also Josh getting very emotional during that, which prompted some people to recognize how close they are. And in fact, speaking of which, that was part of the reason why he was going to be the replacement nominee, which again, not great. Like that Marty recognized that him and Josh are super close, so that's not great. However, by the end of the day, Kevin was able to convince Marty that it doesn't matter who the replacement nominee is, prompting the whole gummy bear draw and getting the best case scenario out of that of Geno being the replacement. Perfect target for him to keep Josh in the game. So again, he is coming out of this round pretty good as well. And moving forward, I think he's definitely in the best position to survive the triple eviction and get towards the end game. However, it's just a matter of if he can get to the end game with people that he could reasonably beat and maybe even change his perception as well, because I think that's definitely going to play a huge factor into whether he will get respect from the jury at the end of the day. As we saw people like Herman and even Moose say that they don't currently respect his game, that he's going to need to step it up if he's going to have to win, or maybe have someone explain his game to him. So there's definitely factors playing into that. But right now, all things considered, I feel like Kevin is the most likely person to win this season, and he's here at number 1. And there we go. That will do it for this week's video. If you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. I'm currently covering this as well, although this season will be ending relatively soon. Survivor 42 is currently in full swing, so I have coverage of that. The Circle is starting in a couple weeks, so I actually plan to do some coverage for that. I'm excited to finally talk about The Circle to some extent. And I do have some more general videos coming out relatively soon, but I'm not going to overload the schedule or anything. I'm just going to try to play it by ear the best that I can. So stay tuned for all that. But for now, that is the video. See ya.